I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Look where we are. Here, all of us, in this moment. So let's do what we spent our entire lives learning to be great at.
And this is Crusher Convo. And welcome to Crusher Convo, where crushing the conversation one episode at a time. We are returning to the Cerritos, diving way back to season 2 with Weidouche. And my bridge buddy for tonight is John from Screenrant. Hello, John. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me back. And, lower decks.
Lower decks. This is my only one I have. It's the Moopsy one where it's like caution. You don't want to get near a Moopsy.
Paramount sent me this. So.
Paramount sent me this one.
Nice.
So, Paramount, hi. This is...
Thank you, Paramount.
Thank you, Paramount. We appreciate it. Now, before we get started, I do want to mention real fast. Marlo Wheaton, the precious baby of Will and Anne, had passed away this week. If you guys do not follow Will on Instagram, he always did this thing called Marlo Mondays and sent wonderful photos of his lovely little puppy here. And I'm so sorry for their loss. As everyone knows, I had lost my 3 cats in 2024, and then my rabbit died in 2025, and the last of the Mohicans, my dog is still, she's still hanging in there at 14, but yeah, Marlo, I think, was almost 14, but she died this week of cancer, so I just wanted to dedicate this episode to her. And Marlo, if you see Ash, Obi-Wan, and Mr. Grimbleshanks and Tigger, please give them kisses if you cross the Rainbow Bridge. This is for you. I always looked forward to Marlo Mondays, if I was having a bad week or just didn't want to start my week, Monday blues. I was always looking forward to Marlo photos. So I'm so sorry for their loss. My heart goes out to them and their sons and Watson, their cat. I'm sure Watson's so confused right now. So yeah, I just wanted to dedicate this episode today to the precious Marlo.
Yeah, we love you, Marlo.
We love you, Marlo. I'm so sad. And the next thing that I need to bring up real fast is my sponsor from Cherry Tree. If you use my code CrusherConvo6, you will get 6% off of your order. Head over to mycherrytree.com and you can buy little kitties on board cubes. You can buy Klingon keyboards. You can even get your own Rakugino mug. And also don't forget to follow them on the socials at Cherry Tree Incorporated. All right. Now, I always like to ask a new question every season. And so last year I had asked you what was your Trek and why. But in honor of the 60th anniversary, I did want to ask this question of what female character do you find inspiring?
That is a great question. I would probably say at this point, there's the 2 versions of Nurse Chapel from the original series and then Jess Bush's on Strange New Worlds, I find really, really interesting. And I'm also kind of like, I love how they're going to kind of blend together this younger version with all her imperfections and flaws, and then the Major Barrett version, the original series, who will go on to become a doctor. That giant arc, I think about that a lot now. It's when I think about the fusion between Strange New World and the original series. So I would say both versions of Chapel right now. But of course, the easy question is always Janeway, who I just gain more and more appreciation for as time goes on, and and just my respect for her as Captain Janeway, Admiral Janeway, and Kate Mulgrew just continues to skyrocket.
It's funny because I'll always have TNG on the background. And so I know TNG like the back of my hand. Like you can give me a screen cap and I could pretty much either tell you what the season is or what the episode is, right? I just watch it so much. now I'm all like, I haven't really watched the other series as much. I've at least watched it like one or two runs through. So I put on Voyager, and it's literally like episode 2 or 3, and they're just like rocking around in the ship and I'm like, if I really had to think about it, Voyager was the one that had the like a lot of crap happen, a lot of crap going on. They had like the stakes were extremely high trying to get back home. The stakes weren't as high at TNG. So a lot more action, a lot more stuff going on. But I agree. I think having Kate at the helm of this type of series of Star Trek, it worked so well. Like, I don't think we would have gotten the same vibe if Picard was there,
right. Yeah.
Or what, But what is it about having the female captains go through some danger? We had Rachel Garrett with the Enterprise C and the Klingons and the Romulans and stuff like that. It's like, man, they do our girls dirty. What's going on here?
I mean, Burnham has to save the universe every season, like literally save the universe, and usually get in a fist fight while doing it. So
I'm about to learn that because I just started Discovery, and trust me, those first 2 episodes, it's like it just threw you right in. She's like flying in space and stuff. Got to accidentally kill the Klingon. It was like, oh, here we go. All right. But today. Okay.
And I just want to say about those 2 episodes, one of the things that I still kind of marvel at in terms of the way Discovery began was introducing us to this character, this Michael Burnham character, who epically screws up. I mean, I don't know if you finished the second episode yet, but how it ends for him, at that point, we're like, we've never seen that before. We've never seen the main character of a Star Trek show mess up that badly and then like literally end up in prison for it. So.
Well, when I was watching the first 2 episodes, I know a lot of people, certain fans complained about she was too emotional. Okay. So I had that kind of in the back of my head of like, what does that mean? Like, what is it that they were complaining about? But I saw it right off the bat that the fact that she grew up on Vulcan as a human, fully human, not like half human like Spock, she had kind of a disadvantage. And so I could see how she can go from 0 to 60 with her emotions because she kind of struggled a little bit more of trying to suppress them. Unlike Spock, who was half Vulcan and could, probably suppress it a little bit easier. It wasn't going to be as easy for Michael. So It made sense that she might be a little unhinged at times or crying at times or whatever. I mean, I haven't gone that far into the season, but I'm all like, they'd said it right here. So I'm already debunking all of these stupid fan complaints from Discovery.
I did it since the beginning. So I love Discovery and I love Burnham. And, I realize I'm an outlier for that. I get made fun of by my own friends about like, I love Burnham, but I do. And for a lot of different reasons.
Well, even with all the hate that you've seen with Academy, I had to ask people, like, was it this bad with Discovery? And they're like, oh, it was worse. I'm like,
it was worse. Discovery took it by far the worst. Yeah, Discovery was the first new Star Trek. It was bringing Star Trek back, and it was breaking so many rules while doing it because it was trying to create a new language for Star Trek, which and a lot of it has stuck, and a lot of it didn't. I mean, they made a lot of mistakes. And they learned from it. You can watch Academy now. When you get through with Discovery and you look at Academy again, you realize like, wow, they learned a lot from what they tried to do in Discovery, what worked, what didn't. And a lot of that does kind of coalesce. And coalesce in Academy, where this is kind of like the most refined version of the Alex Kurtzman era of Star Trek, where they figured it out. They figured out their own formula finally, and it works really well in Academy, I think.
Okay. I mean, I was worried going into Academy before Discovery, but I mean, I got through it just fine. Like, I didn't need to know too much, except for have questions about the burn and all that stuff. But now I'm already understanding a little bit better going into Discovery because I saw Academy first. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I feel like I'm a little bit more prepared and will understand it a little bit better than if I just saw it with no notes, right? Like just going in blind. But we're actually not here to talk about Discovery today. That was a couple of weeks ago. we're actually going to be talking about Lower Decks, and it is called, and I don't even know if I'm saying it right. I know it's
I don't
Klingon.
either.
I don't know. I'm trying to do the Klingon voice here, but it means 3 ships. That's all I figured out. But here is a clip of Widoosh.
Why would you tell an entire shift I get bad cramps?
You were on duty! Your commanding officer has to know any medical issues that could impact the mission!
Phillips doesn't need to know! He's not good with that stuff! It freaked him out!
If I had to dance around everything that freaks out bullets, we wouldn't get anything done!
Cool! Then maybe I'll tell him to boost the environmental controls to help with your hot flashes!
Premiere date was October 7th, 2021. It was directed by Bob Suarez, written by Catherine Lynn, and the date was 2381. Now, this one didn't have an in-universe date, so there was no star date in this episode, but that would have been the date, around that time. So Beverly was already gone, probably already had Jack, and was, trying to figure out life in London. So that's all I know. But like I said, the episode is called Three Ships. That's what it means. And so we see the Cerritos, we see the Klingon ship Shata, and the Vulcan ship Cheval. And this is where we got to meet Mea from the Klingon ship and Talit.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really exciting. Kind of going back and seeing. I'm going to start here with Talin real fast, because, she ended up being a fan favorite later on, especially becoming one of the major characters. But you going back to season 2 and seeing this episode again, was there anything different with Talin that you're like, wow, I didn't realize she was like this? Or to me, she seemed a little different compared to what we saw in the Cerritos. And I don't know if they did that on purpose or they decided to make changes. But what were your thoughts kind of going back to, the original Talin before she was on the Cerritos?
It's funny you asked that question, because I actually made that observation rewatching this. I haven't seen this episode in several years. Probably not until soon after we were reviewing it for Screenrant. So, and you said 2021. It's like, my gosh, it really was that long ago. And the funny thing about my observation about Talin is that I agreed with her Vulcan friends. Like, she is out of control. Like, she really was. She talked noticeably faster than every other Vulcan. And it's really funny because, juxtaposed against Mariner and Boimler, and then when she's on the Cerritos, she doesn't seem like she talks as fast. But against other Vulcans, you can see that, I can see why they were worried about her and complaining about her. Like, she really was kind of, she was certainly as un-Vulcan as she could be at that point. Mm-hmm. And so that was my main observation. And the other thing was that I thought about was, wow, we meet Talin here at the 9th episode of season 2, and then she doesn't come back until I think the end of season 3 when she transfers to the Cerritos. We don't see her for a whole season.
Mm-hmm. You think she went through some major meditation before she headed over?
I think she had to prepare herself to live among humans. She probably did some culinary stuff, and just to get as much out of this, as much control as possible. And also, I guess, the smell. She had to kind of sort out the whole humans smell terrible, the Vulcans thing.
Yep, that makes sense. No, you're absolutely right. She was speaking way faster. She was more emotional, and there was something where she had mentioned about an anomaly, and the other Vulcan was like, well, in definition, that's what anomaly is. So I don't understand your concern. Like, I don't know what's going on. And they're, at first it's funny because she's talking just normal, at least to us. And then all of a sudden they're like, her outbursts are out of control. And it's like, oh boy, if that's an outburst, I can't. And it just made me think of that Strange New World episodes when Ortegas and Manga were watching Spock with that other Vulcan guy, the one that worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm so sorry you had to see my outburst. And it was hilarious. And I feel like that kind of tied together.
Yeah, those two hate each other.
They hated each other, right? But yeah, she just did seem out of control. She seemed like she was right. Whatever this anomaly that she noticed, she was correct. But the way that she handled it was not correct. It made me think, because later on we find out on the Cerritos, she has that disease that Sarek died of. And
Right.
and I felt like I was like, I wonder if this is the start of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Her
little bits of it
outburst.
were bursting. Yeah, we're coming through. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought of. Now, I know she was like she's in her 60s. I think they had said she was 64
Hmm.
or something like that. And that's actually relatively young to be having I can't think of the
Syndrome.
disease's name, but yes. And but that to me I was like, "Oh, I wonder if this was the moment." But then because she's around humans, she probably was still having those moments, but we couldn't tell because everyone else is losing control especially on the Cerritos. Now, what were your thoughts about seeing Maya on here with the Klingon ship? I crack up on seeing the lower deckers on these different ships here, but with Maya, he's a true Vulcan. He's a true Klingon,
Mhm.
where he was all like, "Oh, I would love to be on the bridge and be captain one day and die with honor and all that stuff," but he ended up having a very corrupted captain,
Hmm.
and he was more about honor, and he kind of reminded me of Martok.
Mm.
Definitely of Worf, but more Martok in my opinion. But what were your thoughts about seeing him as the start of this all the way up? Because we see him at the end of season 5 in those old as the farms. I know the title
Right.
has
Yeah.
farms in it.
It is hard
Um,
farms. Yeah.
yes. So, what were your thoughts about seeing him start off like this and then his journey? Because his journey isn't as great as Talin's. He definitely went
Well,
through a
It
lot.
was interesting. It's interesting because, like, I had forgotten how Ma'a started. I just remember how important he became, especially towards the end. And and like he was somehow friends with Marin, and I'd totally forgotten how that happened. But so watching this, it was almost like seeing it for the first time, watching Ma'a's story, because I remember just nothing about it. And so, like, it's interesting how basically, like, it was a spin on Star Trek 6, where where his captain was basically General Chang trying to destroy peace within the Federation and the Klingons. And also, Ma'a's story is funny because it's almost like the Klingon version of Star Trek 2009, where like Kirk, he starts off as a lower decker, and then by the end of the story, he's the captain of the ship, and it just happens. He just rockets right up to the top. So,
Hmm. But he ended up being in that episode, was it the inner fight? And
mhm.
that's how they met because
Oh, right, okay.
Mariner had to fight him because they were all captured by I almost said Tom Paris, Nicholas
Oh, yeah,
Locarno.
yeah, Locarno, yeah. Okay,
And
yeah,
so,
now it's all coming back to me.
yeah, so that's where I was like, oh wow, we saw him for a bit, but I didn't connect the two, that was the same Klingon that we saw in this episode until I saw it. Like I went backwards and I was like, oh, that's okay, because I thought for some reason that was the first episode we saw Mia in it
Right,
was the inner
right.
fight. But no, I was wrong.
Because you see, this episode introduced a couple of really important characters, and a lot of important stuff starts here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of world building that began in this episode, and it's really interesting now looking at the whole 5-year story about how far these characters went and how important they became, especially towards the end. I mean, both of them played big roles in saving the multiverse at the end of the season or at the end of the series.
Hmm. Yeah, no, they did. And that's what I liked about it, because you think these are just kind of one-off characters, but they do play an important role later on, especially Lynn. And I kind of like just seeing like going back and seeing their origin story and knowing where they're headed. That I found a lot of fun to kind of go back to. Now, of course, the Cerritos, it's a little bit more chaotic than shouldn't say, like, unlike the Shata, but definitely different from the Vulcan ship. And poor Boimler trying to find a bridge buddy with a senior officer, and he is batting 1,000. I think my favorite scene, as we saw where he was going to go hang out with the Freemans, and he's like, nope, never mind, and turns around. Yep. But my favorite moment was when he just he just mentions to Shax about like, oh, did you learn that in Bajor? And he lost his marbles over it. And he was like, oh, do we not talk about Bajor? And it made me realize that basically throughout the entire series, Boimler's not being stupid or not doing anything stupid. He's literally asking questions and it's always at the wrong time or to the wrong person. And it just bites him in the face. And I was like, here's another moment. But I think that whole scene was hilarious. And of course, Rutherford, calming him down, being like, to do it as with the clay, And what did you think of the chaos?
And I was also like, whoa, this is the episode where Shax says fighting fascism is a full-time job, which is now like probably the biggest meme that came out of Lower Decks. And is a little more relevant than we'd like these days. But
just a smidge.
This is the episode where that came from.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Now, what about with, I don't know about you, but I was never really a fan of, now I'm forgetting his name, Jerry O'Connell's character.
Ransom?
The Ransom.
Ransom is a quieter case.
He is, but I mean, I think that was the whole point because wasn't at the very end of the series, it was all just a ploy so he can get the lower deckers to like figure themselves out, And this was another moment because he actually, told that other, I don't know if it was a lower decker who asked for Boimler's help. And he was like, the commander. Yeah. He was like, Commander Rutherford said to, not Rutherford, Ransom said to find you because, you would help and this and that. And he kind of just winked at him, And I was like, okay. I see where he's coming from. But sometimes I'm just like, why would you pretend to be Hawaiian, And even Boimler pointed out, he's like, that's the most like disrespectful thing to do. He's like, you guys are complaining that I said I was from the moon, but you guys did worse. Like, it was hilarious. And again, Boimler's right. That's the one thing. He was just a misunderstood character.
Yeah, Ransom is obviously like a parody of Riker. And so, yeah, like it's just like really extreme aspects of Riker and then different stuff. Like, instead of Riker being like a ladies' man, Ransom's a jock, a super jock. And, and the whole idea is that he had his own style of being a first officer. And, and his whole point is to kind of pit the lower deckers against each other or piss them off in a way. Especially Mariner, his whole managing style of Mariner is basically just infuriate her constantly, but somehow it gets through to her. But yeah, Ransom is definitely somebody they took their time over the 5 seasons to really kind of develop Ransom. Because if you pick a Ransom out at any point in these earlier seasons, you're like, this is terrible. Like, how was he the first officer? But when you see the full arc, it's like, oh yeah, okay, this makes sense. This is who this guy is.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I'm glad they kind of gave him that because if they didn't, it just would have been not a good look for the character, Now, what did you think about the mother-daughter bonding time?
I love Mariner and Freeman. It's the most significant mother-daughter story in Star Trek. It basically pioneered the whole mother-daughter trope of Star Trek. It's not something we really saw to this degree, especially between two really, really important characters, the captain of the ship and the main character who happens to be a lower decker and her daughter. I love their bantering. I love their bickering. It feels really authentic to me. And I've had conversations with Tawny and with Don Lewis about and listen to them talk about how they approach their characters because they didn't even record together for most of the series, but to be able to kind of, it's also just how incredible the editing of the show is. But to be able to record, on one day and then match the recording of the other actor on the other day and have that feel so authentic and so real and also so funny, it's amazing about how good these actors are, these voice actors, and also how good just the editing and the writing is of the show. And then here's a funny thing. At the end of the series, we find out that Mariner's full name is Beckett Mariner Freeman. They lay that out, right? And I asked both Tawny and Don this when I talked to them at the end of the series, where I was like, her initials are BMF. Captain Freeman named her daughter this with those initials, and her daughter became a BMF.
I actually never even thought about those initials. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and then I asked
Oh
Michael
my
Mann.
gosh.
I asked Michael Mann. He was like, "Did you do that on purpose?" He's like, "No, I didn't even thought about that." What?
It's like, oh, whoops, but it worked. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the greatness of it. The at first you see Mariner be like, "Ugh, I gotta hang out with mom," and of course you see that scene where they were not fighting, but they were letting out their frustrations in some fun play. Then they did their own little Starfleet version of Clue, which is one of my favorite board games.
Mhm.
And, that little moment. And then they were just so excited to get on the bridge because something was happening. But all of a sudden, Carol going, Mariner, I had a lot of fun. And then you just see Mariner shift from being annoyed to the daughter of like, yeah, I did too. See you on the bridge. It's fine. Yeah. And and it's so subtle, but it's like a cute little moment where you're just like, oh, how adorable. But no, I enjoyed it.
Once they let their frustrations out, once they air it all out, they just reset and they're fine because, at the end of the day, their mom and daughter, they're Beckett and Carol and they genuinely love each other. And there's something else Don Lewis told me is like, it was like, you can see it in Mariner. Mariner's going to become her, and Mariner knows it deep down, and she's fighting it every step of the way, but she's going to become her mom.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Which every daughter does that. We don't want to become our mom, and then all of a sudden when we're a mom or just older and wiser, and you're like, oh, I'm more like my mom than I realize.
And I'll tell you this, a little spoiler for you. You're going to see Burnham also go through something very similar with her mom. With her mom?
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a spoiler. I am very late to the party, so it's fine. Was there any...
One more thing. During the Clue thing, there's a little Deep Space Nine callback where Mariner mentions a phaser rifle that can shoot through walls. And that's a callback to season 7 of Deep Space Nine, when there was an evil Vulcan who had a special phaser rifle that could shoot through walls, and he was killing people on the station. And Ezri Dax had to solve that mystery.
That's right. Like I didn't even put that two together. I laughed though when she mentioned, we have replicators now. Why is there a chef? And I just instantly thought of from Voyager.
Oh, Neelix, yeah, Neelix.
Yeah, Neelix, and I was like, well, they needed one, Mm-hmm. And so he was part of the Clue game. But no, that's a good callback. I didn't even catch that. See, this is why I need to watch more of the other series so I can remember half of this stuff because there's a lot. There's a lot of information over 950 plus episodes. Was there anything else that stood out in this episode that you wanted to share?
Let me see here. I do have some notes. Oh, yes. So this is the first episode when Boimler's trying to ingratiate himself with the Hawaiians, or with the fake Hawaiians. And he says that he's from Modesto, California, which is where George Lucas grew up. And also that joke pays off at the beginning of season 3 when we find out, because there's a joke about like, hey, didn't you grow up in a vineyard? It was like pineapples or coffee, and it is actually raisins. So that pays off in the season 3 premiere when we find out that Boimler owns a raisin farm. His family owns a raisin farm. And, like they have the special Boimler raisins. And I'll tell you this story also. I went to the season 3, there was like a premiere party, like an influencer / cast and press premiere party for Lower Deck season 3 in LA in August. I think it was August of 2022. So I got to go and I got to watch the season premiere with the cast and with Mike McMahon, which is really amazing. And so part of the giveaways that were there where they had Boimler raisins. They just had tons and tons of boxes of Boimler raisins for everybody to eat. And Jerry O'Connell would not stop eating. He tore through at least like half a dozen of these boxes. He just kept eating.
These are amazing.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I feel like I've seen a picture of that.
It's definitely out there.
I feel like I was all like, when did this happen? That's so funny.
Yeah, all that started here. We first mentioned Modesto, California.
Yeah. I'm I'm from California, so when they were talking about all that, it, brought me back a little bit. I did crack up though when he was pretending to be Hawaiian. And that's when he was like, "Oh, I thought you said you were a farmer," but instantly he was, what did they say, pineapples or
Coffee, right?
Coffee, and he's like, "Both." Like, that's amazing. I mean, it was just hilarious how they also did not catch on, but which doesn't surprise me because they didn't even realize. Here's this alien saying he's from Hawaii, and he's like, "Oh yeah, me too." Oh my gosh, this show. It's just too much sometimes. But yeah, but then when they mentioned, they're like, "Oh, I'm from Luna." I'm like, Beverly Crusher. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if like maybe Beverly babysat Ransom as a little boy.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Whenever the moon gets mentioned, I think about Deep Space Nine because like there's the episode Valiant when Jake Sisko and Nog were on Starship that was controlled by Red Squad, the elite cadets, and the chief engineer, the cadet who was the chief engineer, would talk to Sisko, and Jake would be like, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "I'm from the moon. I grew up on the moon." And he'd go, "Oh, you're a lunar schooner." And that, like, so every time I hear the moon mentioned in Star Trek, I just hear Jake Sisko say that, "Oh, you're a lunar schooner."
Well, I mean, I guess that's what Beverly is too.
Yeah, I guess so.
A lunar schooner. That's hilarious. I actually just saw that, Seventh Rule had Gates McFadden on to watch Descent Part 2. And Sirach was just so cute because he was like so excited to talk to her because Beverly was one of his favorites watching TNG and got to ask her all these questions. And so it's so funny because you see these actors, like for us, they're so important to us because they play these amazing characters. But when you see like an actor of Star Trek gush and, get all fan excited about another Star Trek character, even though they're in the same circle, he was just like, it's an honor to finally talk to you. I love that. I absolutely love that.
I know. I love it.
We saw that. I was gonna say, we saw that with Academy. Paul Giamatti, who's a freaking Emmy award winning and all this stuff, huge Star Trek fan. And he was just like losing his mind. He probably lost I don't think Paul was in that Jonathan episode, but he probably would have lost it. He probably would have been like, "Oh my gosh, it's Riker." Like,
well, he wasn't in the episode, but he said he saw John, like they saw each other like backstage, because John,
oh, nice.
Because Frakes was there for weeks prepping the episode, so they ran into each other. I think they were prepping the season finale at the same time with Olatunde Osunsanmi, the director. So Paul Giamatti was on set for that prep. So even though Frakes didn't get to direct him, they definitely like hung out backstage.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a great moment for both of them. I'm sure Jonathan was like, "Oh my gosh, it's Paul Giamatti," and he's doing the same thing. Same with Holly. I mean, having her, that's absolutely insane. We had some amazing, hard-hitting actors, and the one thing that I could say about Starfleet Academy is that the young actors who played the cadets, they were on the same level as these hard-hitting actors, and you could not, because sometimes if you have such a very prominent, award-winning actor versus a not so prominent actor, they can kind of outshine the other person, but that was none of that here.
No, I think absolutely,
and I think it's also just part of, because we only had Paul a couple of times, but definitely part of Holly's character of how she loves to work with other actors, even if they're young, upcoming actors and stuff like that. She just has a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? A certain presence, that just makes it easy to work with her and easy to act out those lines, and they can just kind of be themselves. And the first scene that just kind of popped in my head was when Caleb was trying to help her, Nala, zip up the suitcase, like, hilarious. And you could separate them two, but you don't have to, because they worked so well together. And I think that's why I loved Academy so much. And then that's why I think even Lower Decks works in the same way. I mean, Jerry O'Connell and Don Lewis, like, these are even with Jack, And then everyone else is, new and everything like that. Like I didn't know about Tawny, but they all work together and it's just their voices,
Right.
and it just works. And I think that's the glory about Star Trek and all these different series, Discovery on into Academy, is that, there's been a lightning in the bottle when it comes to the actors and the cast. They just work
Not
so well
yeah.
together.
Yeah, I mean, this franchise, if you go back all 60 years and go through every iteration of it, this franchise has been remarkably well cast with just unbelievable actors on every level. And then also, another miracle that this franchise manages to pull off is that these people, these actors, are quality human beings. And you can tell when you go to conventions and you see them interact, when you see the different actors and different casts meet each other, where they are all just lovely, lovely people. And they're all, it's like, Star Trek, I always say this, it's a giant family. And everybody, like there's little families within the shows, but then when everybody gets together, it's like this giant Thanksgiving dinner where, we're just all this
Star Trek family reunion.
Yeah, there's all this respect and admiration, and everybody's really cool, and everybody's like very excited to meet each other. There's no franchise quite like it, and just in terms of how well the different generations and the different casts of actors interact and are all just really nice people and fans of each other, and they all like hang out together in real life, like. There's no other franchise like the Avengers are. I've heard the story of how the original 6 Avengers are very tight, but I don't know if it's quite like the way it is in Star Trek, where this next generation actors have been together for almost 40 years, and they see each other all the time, they text each other all the time, and like they have Christmas together every year. Yeah, and they have Christmas
TNG
party
is a
together
group
every
chat.
Yeah, it's crazy, but
it's lovely. And I think that's what just makes the shows even better, is because it's just so pure. It's legit just hardworking. They're doing the best that they can, and we feel that and we see it and we enjoy it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like in STLV, we're just fans, but we're all in like one room, like the vendor room with the actors and artists and all that stuff. And like you said, it just feels like we're just a family reunion,
Mm-hmm.
like we're just all there together. There's no separation. And that's what I enjoy about it, because I could, I talked about this on my premiere episode because I was talking about Discovery, and it was is it James Frame who played Sarek? Okay. I hadn't watched Discovery yet, but I was at one of the little booths and everything, and he was coming up to get his little badge, but he didn't know how to get to the vendor room, and it's a little trek. And so I was like, "Hey, I'm headed over there. I could take you." He's like, "Oh, great!" And I literally walked with him all the way down the hall, around the corner, took him to the vendor room and everything, not realizing who I was talking to. But he was so nice, and he was just super, like, just respectful and kind and everything. He was just chatting with me like, like just another normal day, talking with Sarek. Yeah. No big deal. But then I took him to his table, and I was like, oh, that's one of the actors. I was like, okay. But that's so great. Like you said, they cast so well that, you don't have to be an issue of like, bodyguards and security and paparazzi and stuff like that. And then the fans are great, where you don't have to worry about stuff like that. Right.
Yeah.
But actually,
I've been to San Diego Comic-Con, for instance. It's probably the best opposite example of STLV is San Diego Comic-Con, where, it's 100,000 people there. And also, like, the celebrities are cordoned off. You cannot touch them. Yeah, maybe if there's an autograph booth, you get to meet them for a few seconds, but like you literally have to get up at 5 a.m. and get in line to get the ticket. Like it's a whole ordeal just to be able to meet your favorite celebrity at San Diego Comic-Con. Whereas STLV, if you're a Star Trek fan, yeah, you are there for the 4 days or however long you're there, but we're all just in the same hotel room or the same like 6 rooms together.
Yeah.
And we just randomly interact with people. I sat at the bar and like, oh hi, Robert Picardo and John Billingsley. How you guys doing?
I was at the bar, and there's, who did, my gosh, it's my Friday, guys. My brain is out the window. But who played Garon?
Oh yeah, Robert O'Reilly.
Yes, he's having drinks with not a visitor. like
Yeah.
a table over. Like they're just hanging out. There was a third person with them. I can't remember, back with turn. And I'm just like sitting in the corner, just sipping my drink, like, okay, be cool, be cool. There's, but everyone was just, I saw Bonnie like at the craps table or something like that, as I'm walking through. It's just, they're just there to have fun. And I don't know, it just felt homey, like, yeah, this is fine. It's great. And actually, Trek Talks is going to be next week, and Tawny and Gates are going to kick it off, and that's going to be hilarious. It's going to be totally unhinged, no moderator. I'm stoked.
I cannot wait for that. Yeah. No, I have like one of my favorite stories just in terms of that is like, I starstruck as I get. One of the privileges of my job is that I have gotten to meet the actors and stuff, and and form little relationship with them. So there was one point where an STLV, I was sitting in the front row covering the panel with David Ayala and Taniqua. It was a Discovery panel, and then Celia Rose Gooding was kind of like hidden away in front of the microphone where people ask questions, and her job was to kind of ambush them and like, surprise, I'm here to ask you guys a question, right? So I was sitting there and I'm sitting in the front row, I look over and Celia's there, and I hadn't seen her yet the whole con. So I was like, Celia, and she goes, hi, right? So like I ran up and she like gave me a hug, like, and like, I was like, wow, like.
How did you not faint? I would have been like,
yeah, I know.
Play it cool,
she,
play it
like,
cool.
Like, she didn't miss a beat. She hit her cue. She asked the question. Like, it was like, like I temporarily disrupted her little flow, but it was she was so nice about it. And she, like, it was amazing.
Was that in 2022 or 2023?
That was 2024. That was the last one I was at.
Oh, okay. Because I feel like I didn't go to 24, so I probably saw it on social media, but I was like, I feel like I saw this somewhere. But I love when they do that, when they do a little ambushing. It cracks me up. Brent Spiner did it to Patrick Stewart one time, and it was hilarious. But anyways, we were talking about Lower Decks. But
yes.
But the one thing about this episode, as we finish off here, is like you said, it was telling the story of these three really important characters with Boimler and T'Lyn and May, and seeing everything that they were going through. And in the end, it all just, set them off on their journey. Now, T'Lyn, of course, goes home on the Cerritos, and that sets her off. But Maya goes through some ups and downs for sure. And then, of course, Boimler, is Boimler. And the same always happens to him. But it was just nice to kind of see the different perspective of a lower decker on a different ship versus what we see with the Cerritos. Was there anything else that you wanted to before I get to the tricorder rating, that you wanted to mention?
I did love, I love the movies. I love the original series movies so much. So I loved every callback to Star Trek V, Boimler's to go climb a rock shirt, and when he's flying the gravity boots, and when they were climbing, when Tendi and Ta'ana were climbing El Capitan. I love all those jokes. And I love the return of Klingon pink blood from Star Trek VI. And then the joke about, Klingon blood bleeds as reddish pink as ever. Because...
And I loved he did that the Dogs of War quote.
Yeah,
that
the crying.
had done. Yes, I was all like, "Oh, there it is." Yeah, but yeah. So let's go ahead and jump into our tricorder rating.
By tricorder.
All right, I got 4 votes. Woo! And all 4 went for 5 Find a Buddies. 100%. Everyone was like 5. Done. I did have 4 Climb a Rock, 3 Tamarian Languages, 2 Hawaiianers. That should have been 3. I missed opportunity. And then 1 Borcube 9082. The quick scene with Boimler and was it Kayshawn? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Again, Boimler is just trying to be nice and hospitable and it just blows up in his face. But where do you vote along this?
Yeah, I probably would give it 5 stars. I don't remember how I felt about it the first time I saw it all those years ago, but now looking back at it and seeing how historically important this episode was to the series and all the world building and all the foundation it laid, yeah, it's actually a seminal episode of Lower Decks, and also a very very cool experimental episode of Lower Decks, like a nice break in format that really worked.
I agree, and I definitely give it a 5 as well. And it's good that you mentioned that, because when we're first watching this episode, we probably were just like, wow, that was okay. It was great, but not, exciting or whatever. Because I remember watching Academy and I was giving my little 1 out of 5 ratings. When a next episode would happen, all of a sudden, the previous episode, I might have given it a 4. And I was like, ooh, maybe that one was more of a 5 because another episode kind of shifted my perception on it. And that's kind of what happened here, because this was just a little seed and it grew into something spectacular, but we just didn't realize it yet. And that's just the brilliance of Mike McMahon right there. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that you mentioned that, because I don't think we would have realized like how T'Lyn would have been so pivotal to the series later on, especially for Mariner, with the fact that he was there for her discussing about Cito's death.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, gosh, Mike McMahon, you're just...
Yeah. And it's always like kind of dicey when you do an episode where you spend the entire episode almost the entire episode away from your main characters, and you spend more time with these new people you've never met before. Because in your head there's like, oh, why are we with these Vulcans? Why are we with these Klingons? Let's get back to Boimler. Let's get back to Mariner. But like, so that may be your reaction the first time you see it. That probably was mine as well. I was a little impatient. It's like, I'm not sure if I dig these new characters, because in your head you're like, this is just a one-off. Like, you don't know if they're coming back. But now looking back at it historically, it's like, yeah, this is a really, really like important episode, and introduced a lot of cool things that paid off later on.
And I think with TNG, they did that with Ensign Ro. She was brought in and stuff, and she could have been a one-off, but then she was in a couple of, kind of her own episodes while she was kind of a central character. But,
she was intended to be
but she was there from...
She was intended to be important. Because they needed another female character, and they needed somebody who was a little disruptive, because they just felt like Beverly and Deanna were they were very set and very like loved and stuff, and they don't rock the boat. Whereas like they needed a female character to come in and just be kind of like an opposing force to a degree, and that's what Ro was. And so there was a whole plan for Ro, obviously, which was going to lead to DS9, which didn't pan out. Yeah, for sure. But so yeah, they definitely have done that a few times, and it's worked. But I think this was Mike's plan. He knew that these characters were going to be so important. We just didn't realize it until now. Now, my next episode is going to happen in 2 weeks, and I get to find out what that episode's going to be. All right, Jeff from Renegade Shipyards, who is going to be my guest. Your episode is Those Old Scientists from Strange New Worlds. I am so excited. How lucky are you guys? Wow.
I'm like, yes. So then this is perfect, because we just did a episode, and we're going back with Mariner and Boimler.
I mean, that's the best of the best. I don't know. You can't get better than that.
I'm stoked. There's a reason why it was on my wheel this season. I still say it is, if it's not it is one of the top 3 best Star Trek episodes of all time. I'm so excited. So Jeff, I hope you're excited as I am. And this episode will come out on April 3rd. And yeah, yes. I love this episode. I'm so stoked.
Yeah, it's probably like, if we look back on everything, or however many episodes were produced during this whole Paramount Plus era, it might be, if not number 1, in the top 3 easily of of everything. Like, it's that good.
It's, I mean, I remember seeing it. I got a screener of it actually, and I was mind blowing and like freaking out, and then having to keep my mouth shut. Sucked.
That's hard.
So sucked.
Like, for Academy, I knew about Jake and Jake Sisko and Captain Sisko. I knew about that for weeks, and God, that was so hard. It was so hard to keep quiet.
That's ridiculous. I mean, I I understand the importance of it, especially for you guys. You guys are writing your articles and your interviews and stuff like that. So you really have to prepare yourself. And it was nice to have a couple of screeners because I was doing reviews at the time. So it helped me instead of watching it like 2 hours before and then going in. But the Tony from Trek Movie, he sometimes doesn't watch the screeners because he wants to just anticipate each episode. And that's the beauty of it. Like you don't want to watch all 6 at once and everything. I can understand, the temptation of it, but it is important to kind of have like, where is this going to go? So I see both sides, but yeah, it's definitely, I would love to have screeners, but then I also love to wait and not let it fly by, because look, the 10 weeks flew by, it's done, and I already miss it.
Yeah, my method is totally different. Like when I get the screeners, I watch them all, but my first pass is a pleasure watch. I watch it just for fun, just to enjoy it. I turn off my analytical brain and I just enjoy it for what it is, or not enjoy it for what it is sometimes, every now and then. But then, like, because of the way my job works and the way we do it at Screenrant, we're so granular. Like we go in and we pick out like every talking point they possibly want to, that we think like fans and audiences will be interested in talking about and exploring. So the second and third pass, and sometimes more, I really go in, and I look for the details and I pull out as many like factoids and pieces of dialogue and things to talk about as possible. To generate however many articles from each episode. But the first time is just purely as a fan, like as if I don't have my job and I just get to watch Star Trek just for the fun of it.
Yeah, I think some people do that, to be honest. They just want to watch it, through, and then they'll go back and take their notes and kind of figure it out and make their critiques if needed. I did love your article about comparing with Caleb and his mom with Jack and Beverly. I was all like, this is for me.
It was for you. It was literally written for you, or with you in mind.
I love it. I was all like, this is all I see is because I love that photo. I have an autograph of it because it's my favorite photo with the forehead touching. I was like, what is this? So I really appreciate it. Like, you have no idea. I was reading it. I was like, no, like nail on the head. Like, that is so true. Okay. I mean, definitely I like comparing those kind of theories. I was actually talking to someone who, sees Sub Rosa differently than I do, but we had a lovely conversation. So shout out to that person. I don't remember his name, but it was, we're having a conversation. It's just, and it's nice to kind of see other people's point of view or how they can connect the dots a little bit. And it just expands the story, and that's what I like about it. So, but now let's get into my redhead alert. Guys, I had the honor to talk to legendary Trek artist Doug Drexler. He was so much fun to talk to, and even his favorite buddy jumped in on all the fun. Join me in the chat next week when the episode premieres and we can discuss the fabulous stories he has to tell. And Trek Talks is only a week away, and don't forget that all my proceeds from my TeePublic store will be donated this year. Spread your Bev love with exclusive Crusher Convo designs, and let's make this Trek Talks the best year yet as they raise money for the Hollywood Food Coalition. The telethon kicks off with Gates McFadden herself and our very own Mariner, Tawny Newsome. No moderator, just them having some fun, so you do not want to miss all the wonderful things they have planned next week. And of course, a reminder about my giveaway. Once I get to 1,000 followers on Instagram and 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I will be giving away an autograph of Gates McFadden to a very special listener. Please spread the word, I can speak, and share my content to help me reach my goal. Like I told you guys, it's my Friday. I'm so ready. And of course, you can submit a penny for your thoughts by recording off crusherconvo.com in a 60 to 90 second clip, or you can email me your thoughts to crusherconvo@gmail.com, and I will announce your penny live on the air. And last but not least, and my Patreon shoutouts go to Leslie, Dave, and Grayson, who are my Commander patrons, and Chuck, Engineer Mark, and Johannes Borg, who are my Admiral patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast and enjoy exclusive content, just head over to patreon.com/crusherconvo, and you can sign up for as low as $3 a month. Whew, that actually took a lot out of me. It's been a long week, and these allergies, I'm barely surviving still. So thank you,
God,
John,
me
for
too.
joining me. Oh my gosh, it's been horrible.
Yeah.
It's been like 2 weeks, and I'm still suffering for it. But thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I love talking with you. I love your stories. Now, everyone knows where to find you, but do you have anything upcoming that you want to be all like, hey, this is coming, or article, interview, nothing? I mean,
I don't want to say nothing.
well, I mean, you know.
I crank out Star Trek every day. I don't have anything like super like cool in the works, but Trek Talks I'm super excited about, and whatever comes out of Trek Talks, I'm going to be watching every panel, and I'm going to there'll be articles coming out of Trek Talks, I'm sure, for everything cool that they talk about on every panel. But and I can't wait just to hear everybody, because what a lineup it is next week.
Oh, for sure. It's huge. Lori from Trek Movie is going to be doing a panel with Robert Duncan McNeil and Roxanne Dawson. And so I'm super excited about that. And like I said, Gates and Tawny are starting it off. And so this is really awesome.
Rock with the Starfleet Academy kids. I can't wait for that.
That's right. Yeah. So Rock's doing that, but also Trek Geeks is going to be talking to Paul Giamatti. So that's huge.
So jealous.
I mean,
so
this
jealous.
Is so awesome. This is such an awesome year. I told Bill, I was like, how are you still standing? And he's like, I don't know.
Seriously.
He's like, talk to me after the event.
I'm going to have to start sending Lori flowers every day, just begging her to let me moderate next year. Just
You'd be like, Sue, yeah, hey, I'm available.
I'll stand outside her window with a boombox.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. That's such a callback.
Yeah, I know. That's how old I am.
Same here. But anyways, guys, again, thank you, John. Thank you to all the listeners who are listening right now or even after. If you have any comments, just comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not done so yet. But as always, guys, live long and prosper. Have a good night.
Crusher out.